Oh, yeah, I think you contacted me to like talk about art because sometimes we do that.
Yeah. Things we do when we're bored, people.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, let's just get on to the first topic. Like, what do we have on the docket, Shimo?
The opinion that well, manga is stale, which is gonna be very interesting.
Yeah, so that's my topic. We're starting on it because, yeah, manga is stale. How do I say it? Like, when I think about like what is advancing, I feel like manga is obviously superior to like Western art right now, but in a weird way, it's actually stale. If you look at like what manga talks about, right? It's like it's 90s existentialism, and it's kind of stuck there. It's like never gone further. Where I feel like nowadays, with like the whole 2016 election, I think religion's getting more popular, and I think they just haven't caught on to like the meme stuff. And like every time now, whenever I read like a manga, it's okay, it's good. It's definitely better than whatever the West has, but it's not like exciting me like I don't know something like Stone Toss, or Sam Hyde, just something that like really pushes something forward. I read it, it's good. I
Yeah.
don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Shimo. Like just, that they're
I,
just stuck.
well, I'm not surprised you get that opinion that they're stuck. Well, Japan, arguably as a whole, has been kind of stuck in the '90s ever since the economic collapse because there's this whole fear of Japan just conquering everything. Like Japan was buying out American companies too. Like one of the first ones they bought were the Lawson and 7-Eleven corporations because they love the convenience store concept so much. But when that was happening, and then they're buying out companies such as Columbia and TriStar, people were terrified. They were selling books how the Japan's economy was going to eventually just defeat America, and it was inevitable. Like accept it, and then they had their housing bubble crash, and they were going to recover from that. And then the world had their economic crash in the early 2000s. So that's why they're kind of stuck there. And trying to define religion by Japanese terminology is like trying to define what magic is in Islamic terminology. There's not really a good
Yeah,
approximation in the West. So, because in our case, in the West, we have a distinction between what's a religion, what's a cult. In Japan, it can be as loose as Shinto, where gods just exist, or it can be as hardcore as the cult that paints the world blue with the toxic gas and everything. It's a lot harder. That's why religion has a really weird negative stigma beyond just the Meiji Restoration. In Japan, yeah, I think Japan will probably have a religious boom that might bleed over into comics and art, but I think it's not going to play out exactly the same because of what the word is. They think, oh, if I believe this to this degree, it doesn't qualify what religion is because of that humongous extreme gap there is.
yeah, that makes sense, right? That actually does make a lot of sense. That's crazy. But yeah, thinking about it, like just not even like religion though. It's like politics, right? I guess the closest that they came to it. Do you keep up with the Death Note guys at all?
The Death Note guys, on occasion,
Yeah,
because it's been forever.
yeah. So I don't know if you remember, they wrote Platinum End, and then
Hmm.
I think like they went full Trump derangement syndrome. And I don't think I've actually seen a lot of Japanese people actually go against. I think the closest they have is what is it? There was that one firefighter manga. I forget what it's called, but they had the girl stand against like woke people against sexuality and stuff. But other than that, they don't really seem tapped in onto like the next wave of like beliefs that I think that is like just what needs to be next. I guess it's like opinion because again, like a lot of people, I think on our side, definitely, they're just like just write a good story, right? And they don't have like they don't believe in pushing a belief system on the story. But it's it's how it's how I feel like art should be. It's like it's your beliefs or whatever, and you're just like in a tug of war. But like Japan, and in many ways, there's no way they possibly could do this, and I think that's very super important. Like they just haven't caught on to like what's super in, and I think they have extremely better technical writers, right? I think that's the thing. They have definitely better writers, better editors. It's like not even a freaking contest. on the technicals. But like I just if you're reading it, it's like this doesn't necessarily speak to me. It's just like good entertainment. That just makes it kind of eh. I don't know if like you're reading any like recent manga series at all.
Forget because there's so many. And that does kind of go to your point about the technical writers. In the case of isekai, it's more so just that fulfillment fantasy of whatever the hell that they're good at. In these days and ages, when the world is kind of seems grim dark, that it's going to sell more than a constant reminder. I mean, you could argue that people like Sam Hyde and South Park, have done that same thing. But there's criticism, but it's more importantly is a comedy. You can get away with fucking anything as long as it's in the name of comedy. There are people who will watch, let's say, Metalocalypse because it's a comedy show, right? And they'll put up with
Yeah.
all the death metal bullshit they would never put up with. They'll even like the music, but then they'll think, oh, it's only a comedy band, or like Weird Al Yankovic. It's a parody of all the rap songs. You play the originals, some people can't stand them. Like Fancy by Iggy Azalea, people hate that song. But you put on Weird Al's version, and they love it because it's funny. Even though the musical notes are exactly the same, the only thing that's different is the lyrics. But South Park, like a Japanese manga, usually they can put a chapter or an episode a week, which is something that's not very common in the West, because in the comics in the West, you usually get it on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, or if it's a full collection, whenever the hell that book comes out. Um, and cartoons take forever; like it can take about a year to animate a whole season of a show. So and so I think with manga, at least depending on the magazine, they could do it, but I think it's just that they don't want to do it. They kind of do it. They'll let their heroes become their themes or their values that they like, but they try to do it in a way that's actually inspiring. Like if you think about old school Superman or like old school Goku before Dragon Ball Z, Superman has to go to a fan club meeting of all his friends, and he wants to party with them. It's like, I want to party with them, but I can't give away I'm Clark Kent, because they'll figure out it's me. And I think two people figured it out, and they thought, oh man, we couldn't get Superman. We just got Clark Kent dressed as Superman. Something stupid like that. But it was funny because they were human, three-dimensional like that. People wanted to be like Superman. Like, yeah, he's a goofy guy. He can do anything, but he still has problems too. There are some weird, wacky, uncomfortable shit that's human that superpowers can't solve. And people wanted to be heroes like that. But now, in this day and age where you have to be the strongest, the fastest, the best, people don't want that, and that's kind of I think where your push of my values, my beliefs should go into, because that's what the current market wants. They don't want Goku the bumbling country bumpkin. They want Goku the guy who can just shout for 5 episodes, snap his fingers, and destroy more shit than Thanos can.
I mean, yeah, I will admit, I mean, I have like a bias in comedy, right? But I will say that you are correct in that Japan doesn't want to do this. I read an interview from Shihei Lin, who is the editor of like famous stuff like Chainsaw Man and
Mm.
Spy X Family. He deliberately said, and this is why like I push for politics so hard, because so what he said is like for how we like make fun of people, right?
Yeah.
Is that they generally they'll do anything that is like not hurting anybody. And like this is key because this is something they're not willing to do, right? This is like super important. I mean, we talk like everybody knows about like asymmetry. Well, I don't know if everybody knows, but asymmetry in in battle, right?
Mm.
One of the key things that I've seen is like pitch placement to get better.
Mm.
What I mean by that is, so Sonic Fox, right? Everybody knows
Yes.
Sonic Fox.
Oh yes, the guy who's.
So
Oh, yeah.
the guy who what does he do
Oh,
every
well, the
single
guy.
time like attorney comes up?
Well, the problem that he kind of the reason why fighting games are shit, because he's one of those guys who could just sit down for the game, look at all the frame data, and within an hour or two mathematically break the game. So instead of playing how an actual person would play, he will just do whatever is statistically the safest or the strongest option. And because he fixes it, so he figures out so fast, game companies will actually contact him to break the game essentially, and so they know how to patch it. Problem is, they're patching it based on mathematical probability compared to how people actually play the game. That's why every game comes out busted as shit and then becomes boring as shit real fucking quick.
Well, I also think part of his success is that I think you notice this. He usually only comes on when like something new happens. There's like they implement some new mechanics, and then he finds the broken new mechanic. Then he'll like reign supreme. Then like whenever people figure out the new mechanic or like it's patched up, I don't think he's like as relevant as like the longtime players of the game, right? It makes sense.
Like that's what people hate him because he only does that. He shows up, breaks game, they
Yeah,
patch
like
it, and it's not in a way that brings everybody else down. But that's partially because
yeah,
game
but
devs.
here's the important part. He wins, and he wins against people have been doing this way longer, right? But here's the thing: here in the West, we suck. Our system sucks. Okay, no editor wants to hire us because we're all on the right, they're all on the left. All right. So we can't play the traditional game like the Japanese can. The Japanese people are on the same side, they're doing the same thing, and they all agree. But but we have a niche that I think that we can exploit as right wingers, which is politics. Like we've lived in it since 2016, ever since Trump elected, it's been full on politics. Okay, we know it better than anyone, and like as I said, it's the new wave in. We don't. The great thing is, I don't think we necessarily have to be the best writers. We can just exploit the system that we're super into, right? And then use that to compete against the Japanese people on writing terms until at least some of us can get better at writing traditionally, and it's something that they, number one, not only do they not know, but the second point that's very important because of, I think, how cancel culture has kind of made Japan where they're 50-50, right? They're not willing to do it. And that's super awesome because we have to be showing that we're willing to do it and then we just win. I think that's like a viable strategy. Like people talk about politics like it's some kind of like, oh, I don't want to talk about politics. Like thinking about it as like a weapon to like shore up asymmetry in fighting, I think is something that we could powerfully use to like take it to the Japanese and not not be boring, because you can win standard. I think it's like man, I would say like in the terms of like manga is stale. Manga's like Floyd Mayweather. Like they just do the thing, they get in, they get out. It's great. It's like you have a chance to really counterpunch and make this like explosive statement. If you get what I'm saying.
I get that. I get that. I think Japan can and will do that, but someone has to break that thing first. And when whoever does choose to break it, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be some controversial shit. I mean, shit. Everyone's going to be like, "What the hell are you doing?" And then so when the right retaliates and their works, it's going to be much more acceptable.
Yeah, I will say this, and I will say this. It is very possible somebody in Japan can do it. And if they do, I will never forgive the fucking right, dude. This is like the most golden opportunity right has ever had to compete, in my opinion. And if I see a Japanese person do it first to do it better, I fucking hate all of you, okay? Like you gave up this position that is so golden. It,
Yeah.
it reads to me as something as yeah, I'm sorry, continue.
I'm just laughing at that. Death Note guys that like that open outburst in the art, that's not commonplace. So that's like the rare exception to the rule. I was it like
Yeah.
Takahashi, the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh, was very anti-LDP. He hated Shinzo Abe and the Liberal Democratic Party, but he made work known in his interviews, but never in his work, because he also knew that if he wanted to keep selling that shit, just keep that shit separate. Because he also understands that art's a fucking business. That's the big thing in the West here.
Yeah.
But people, for some reason, believe that art is like just like this movies where like this college guy follows his passion and magically makes it. Nah, even the Renaissance masters were reliant on donations and commissions. The Sistine Chapel was not a charity work. The Sistine Chapel was done because the guy, Michelangelo, owed the church a bit of money, and he was partially picked because he had beef with the Pope at the time. So, as a result, Michelangelo also was having a crisis of faith, and so going through all three of them at the same time and forced him to do the Sistine Chapel essentially 3, 4 times over, and the end result was perfect. It became a passion work, but he still had to have the money and the backing from the people who had it. People just think, oh, I put art on Twitter, I'll magically become famous. No, you need followers, and then you get the Patreon or a publisher will pick you up, and that's how you get big. Very rarely can you get
It's so
people.
hard because you are correct. It is a business, and like doing it with my method, you would not be able to run a business
You
at
need to get
all.
big first. You got to do
Uh,
what the lefties do. You got to get big first, then plant your stake. They didn't come in openly wearing the liberal brigade armor from the get go. No, they got in and then they started wearing the armor. That's what they did.
mm, yeah, I guess that's like a tactics thing that I think other people are doing it, but
You want to be the cannonball, I
I
get you.
just kind no, but like I kind of balk at the commercial success because I think we've had several people in our sphere that have had commercial success, and I think the issue is when you're playing on that mainstream line, again, you're fighting against like Japan. They just have better writers and editors. Like, I mean, we could. I guess if you're playing that, you're playing like a very long game,
Yeah,
like
that's
a
the only other
slog
way you can
game.
win. Because if you have a long game where you're wanting a small but dedicated audience, and now to compare your bills, your rent, you don't have to worry about bowing to anyone politically because you're just that tight knit of a community. That's the only way I can think of you can win in the
Yeah,
mainstream success by
I guess you
playing.
have to play it safe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but if you're trying to make Marvel money, like if you want it
yeah,
to be that kind of good, you have to either be like lucky like Dark Horse, where Berserk and Star Wars were single handedly carrying the entire company, or
yeah.
have god tier crap that you marketed very, very well. But again, as you said, all difficult shit to do.
I mean, it's just very, very hard, and I just don't see how the expertise is gonna transfer in the West. But I guess that'll be up to time whether or not my method works at all. Because it is a toss up. I mean, I can see. I guess we'll I mean, I say this, but we'll see how the two strategies play out. There's a side that definitely doesn't want to do politics, but yeah,
Because the thing with politics is that the way it worked in the past is that it was somewhat in your face, but somewhat subtle. I will always use Captain America and Iron Man as those two examples. Because Iron Man is basically a story about how you can be somebody who, not the greatest guy in the world, but you can turn it around. In Captain America, I think that's self-explanatory. Because people like they don't like Superman because they don't like the truth, just the American way, but they can't help but find him a charming character. I think that's what they want to do in Japan. They want to have those characters that people like and that they want to willingly be because they're such good, lovable characters and role models. Although then we can have a whole debate about should fictitious characters be role models? Because I remember in a Discord once by this guy who said fiction was a waste of time and it's all for losers who can't handle the real world. And I'm like, that's kind of a
what
problem.
was for losers?
Fiction in general was for losers for people because they can't handle the real world. They can't think on that higher level. So that's rely on cartoons and comics and shit to find the morality.
That's funny.
He's
That's
not
funny. Yeah,
completely wrong. For some people, that's true, but
yeah,
not
dude. For
everyone.
some people, they worship comic books, and like it's just fucking weird,
Oh no,
dude.
not just comic book books. Like, look at remember when it was like we like was it when the Ukraine war started? They had the people like we are the resistance. I'm like, you're not the
Oh,
resistance. You're living in Beverly Hills. How are you part of any resistance?
bro,
You are
those
not.
people, man.
And I'm like, if you're gonna pick a Star Wars analogy, do you really want to be that sequel trilogy after what happened with
Bro,
Last Skywalker?
bro, they're like, yo, they're the Empire. I'm Luke Skywalker. It's like, bro, just shut the fuck up, dude. Like,
Pretty
this is
much.
the
It's like you
dumbest
weren't
shit.
even around here 20 years ago. Get the fuck out. That's what. Yeah.
Bro,
In that case, it
that's
makes sense.
that's so true.
Yeah, but I think with
Yeah,
that we can jump around because we were talking
yeah, sure.
about Dark Horse, and Dark Horse would also because they would publish manga like Berserk and American comics, Star Wars,
Yeah.
but they also sometimes would do English translations of Bande Dessinée. You were saying about BD. What was the you have a out here? Yeah, the
Oh,
popularity
this.
is fake as
Yeah,
fuck. There's no way any French comic can outset Jujutsu Kaisen. Just admit the way
yeah. This is
sucks.
this is true. I don't get it with the right wing. Like people just say shit that is observably not true. But like Bond Dessiné is super popular. Fucking where?
I
Dude,
think
I do like I have never seen anybody mention a single fucking what is it? Bond Dessiné in real life, okay? In real life, you will walk down the street and some fucking 15-year-old will be wearing a jujutsu fucking Tyson fucking, you know, baseball cap or fucking here's my Boruto shirt,
oh god, don't
I'm
get me
playing
started on
Boruto.
Boruto.
Where is this Bond Dessiné fucking love coming from, dude? And I'm not putting it down like it's great. Bond Destiny is great. Whatever, it's cool. But like this, we need to follow the Bond Destiny system. I feel like it's cope. I feel like it's cope that people can't just admit that right now the West
It
is getting their ass beat by
when
the
it comes to
PC, and they're
sales,
just like,
I do think it's cope when it comes to sales. Influence, no, but but sales wise, it is cope. Is Bonnie Disney incredibly influential? Yes, it is. It would be the perfect sweet spot between the Western comic style and the Japanese storytelling. But the issue is that, well, like you said, nobody really fucking outside of Europe buys that shit in mass. I mean, well, the Jap because there are more French that buy Japanese comics, and the Japanese love French people, love French shit.
I mean, sure, but like, name one normie who knows a Bond Destiny. You can't like,
If they do
let
know
me ask you,
of all Bande
what's the
Dessinée,
most,
then they don't know it's a Bande Dessinée. Does that make sense?
what what's the biggest Bond Destiny series right now? Do you even know? Does anyone know?
The biggest one, no, but the last one I could tell in the Western world, generally speaking, that everyone knows of would be in English it's Tintin. I think it's pronounced Tonton in French. But
Say Tintin.
yeah, of course, because they just changed the spelling. Point is with Tintin, it was had a cartoon back in the I think the 90s and had the movie a couple of years ago, like the rare case of you have motion capture CGI that doesn't look creepy or anything. It looks perfect. But people didn't know about
Just
Bond and
saying, like,
Destiny. They just thought it was just it's another comic book. They didn't know that Bond and Destiny is from France. You know what I mean? Like it's
there's no way Tintin is relevant. Like, fucking Spy X Family is relevant. Like people who act like Bond Destiny is like an actual thing, like a big thing, and that it's selling like hotcakes.
if it within the art circles maybe, but outside of that, most likely not. It's like was it
Oh
you when you're
yeah,
it's like when your favorite band has a very favorite band that everybody really like, but it's like underground, like B C tier. Not bad
bro.
quality, but
Every artist has heard of Meta Barons. Okay, like yeah, of course in artist circles, yeah, Meta Barons fucking exist. We know this and stuff like that. But like, do most like the just the idea that like it competes and it's like a structure that I mean, it may be a structure that's worth following, but I don't think it's anywhere near as competitive as like manga. And I think people are just under an extreme amount of cope. That's all I see. Because the real I don't know, like people have pulled up numbers like, oh, Bond Destiny sells more than Japan. I mean, maybe I don't know where those numbers come from, but that's not translating to real life, like online interactions. Like anime PFP is a thing. There's no Bond Destiny PFP, okay? No, nobody is fucking putting themselves as some Western Tintin guy on fucking X. It's just I don't know.
yeah, and for
People
this,
people people need to get off copium, dude. They just need to get off and just like just be like humble and like just be like, yeah, the Japanese are better. Like let's just all admit it. They kick our asses every single day. Even if I do think they're quote unquote stale or they're not pushing hard, they beat us 9 times out of 10. It's not even a fucking contest.
oh shit, Black Sad's a fucking BD apparently.
Okay, I mean, yeah, that's great. Black Sad is like,
Yeah, but it's
but I
not
feel
like
like people talk more about Has Been Hotel than Black Sad now.
yeah, but
Like, is it just me?
Hazbin Hotel also has the ability have talking points because it's on that modern internet trend of controversy and knee jerk
Yeah, but that's
reactions.
what I'm saying. It's relevant.
Ah, okay,
Black Sad is
like okay,
it's not relevant. I mean, yeah, I don't think it is. It's kind of it's like mid tier.
I'm
Like they
trying.
made one video game of it.
I think this is a sign of what you're talking about here. I'm trying to use and find like sales for Bande Dessinée in
Again,
2023, and all my no, and all both sites are in French. I don't get shit in English. I see.
I'm
I
not
don't.
saying they're bad,
Oh
and I'm
yeah,
not
I'm
even
looking. I'm just looking for
saying
sales. That's all
that
I'm saying,
they're.
bro. I'm looking for sales in this
There's
very.
lots of great bande dessinée, probably,
Yeah, but it's not like
but the
those
hype,
million
the
dollar
hype in
blockbusters.
right wing spheres for bande dessinée is like insane, and it's just like I don't believe this shit, dude. This doesn't seem real to me.
Yeah, because
It's
cause
just been
I can't
irking at
find
me.
anything for the sales. I don't know French, so I can't. But the thing about sales that I do want to keep in mind, I'm not saying that Body Disney is not. I'm not saying manga. It's truly the opposite. we also need to compare. Are we comparing omnibuses that have the entire like volume 1, volume 2, volume 3 against monthly comics in America? Are we comparing, like one full issue of Bonnie Destiny that takes a year to make? Or are you comparing like the 6, 7, or 8 different magazines that have a new chapter every week from like 17 different artists?
I'm
That's
not talking about any of that.
no, no,
I'm
no, no,
talking
not
about
you, not you. But I'm saying how people
oh
are looking at the conversation. A lot of people say, well, because I remember seeing this quote that says, "Manga in 1 week outsells all American comics," and I'm like, if you're talking about volume sales, then that's debatable. But on the other hand, if you're talking about
uh,
those weekly Shonen Jump, you had Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, Bobo, Hikaru no Go, 8 manga. It's just getting one chapter every week in Japan. So you could buy it and get
decimating.
like 30 pages times 8. It's like 240 pages of manga plus a week, and that's
Yeah,
a pretty hefty book.
yeah.
So you're buying that and then you're recycling it, buying it, recycling, and in that case, that makes sense why manga would outsell all comics in a week. But if you're comparing like physical final product volume sales to final comic sales,
I'm gonna say this: sales don't matter. Okay. I mean they do. They do. They
they do
matter
they,
in the
they
terms
matter
of
to company, but in terms of popularity,
yes.
it doesn't matter at all. I know what you mean.
Well, what I mean is that in my opinion, the vast majority of people who read manga, they read it illegally online. All right. Like nobody is out here fucking buying volumes of. There's some people who do who buy their favorite series. They're not buying all those series, dog. They're all reading it online. Whether I think Shonen Jump has like an app or whatever that you can read it legally. For years people did it illegally. That's where all of the action was. And you know what that is? No sales, dog. Okay, like it's it's the influence and the popularity
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
that is like super. That is what like generates the interest to like make sales.
Oh
Like
yeah.
what I'm saying is like BUINESS doesn't have any on like nobody's excited for the next week of fucking asterisks. Okay.
Yeah, I get you. I just use sales because in Japan, unlike the West, there's still very much a humongous appreciator of physical media. So even though you have Netflix or Amazon or even so these apps, actually some manga apps in Japan will have ads on them, but they'll be free to read. Like Shonen Jump, there's a free Shonen Jump app you can download with
Yeah.
ads and everything. So I actually can read the newest weekly manga chart without actually having to go to the store, and they still get money. I get money, but in spite of that, there's still better sales. Whereas in the West,
Yeah.
they'll pick whatever's convenient. Like they'll what was that one comics app that came out that was causing people problems? Comixology. I
Comicsology.
think this is Comixology. Yeah, because people were buying their comics online on Amazon, and then a lot of them just took the Comixology because of other DRM. And so what you could use to buy on Amazon, you have to buy the Comixology or Amazon and Comixology connecting the accounts. And
Americans, just not even once. Like we suck so bad. Like
yeah,
I don't know. Like dude. Like I think this segues perfectly into one of the points that we wanted to talk about. I don't get where right wing people are like, you know what kids do, man. You know why comics isn't selling is because they aren't in Walmart. Like, are you retarded? Like, like I hate to sound so like mean
no,
to like
no,
all these
no, you're
people,
not
but it's
wrong
like
about that. Because I remember
it's
growing up after the Spider-Man 2 movie, yeah. Because you could go to Universal Studios, and I think it's Florida or California. They had a Spider-Man attraction. I think it's both of them. So you could buy Spider-Man merch, Spider-Man toys. That thing was inescapable. Every store, Walmart,
yes,
Target, um, even they had Dollar Store shit, um, with Spider-Man on it because it was that much of a commodity. And so I remember going. I think it was Target, and they actually had a collection of like a 200-page collection you could buy, and had comics of old vintage like original 60 Spider-Man, one from the 80s. It had one of the alternate ones, one of the new 2000 ones at the time, and then an upcoming preview. But the point is, I got that out of Target, and it was next to the cashier stand, next to all the candies and stuff. And that's what you can get. You don't have that in there at the store. Like last time I went to Walmart when I went back to the States to visit, was there was you couldn't get manga there because it was all sold out. The comics there was barely existent. There were more of those romance novels with pirates being sold than there were comic books.
Bruh. Only old ladies at checkout screens that
Oh
knew their
yeah,
hobby,
bro.
yo.
If yeah, bro. The fact it should have been like those tabloid magazines and comic books, but also some of those major publications. Don't bother. Like Mad
Yeah.
Magazine, I think used to be a big one when I was growing up as a kid. Now they stopped. They're defunct. They have a digital only subscription shit. So like, how is that gonna compete?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the only
Well,
people I can
well,
think
digital.
of is those dedicated bookstores like Barnes and Noble. That's the only one I can think of that actually can have a fighting chance against this thing. And that's is because even my age, the manga sections were getting bigger and bigger, and they would bleed into
Yeah.
the DVDs.
I think that like people are just like it's like this ancient mentality where we're like freaking ancient boomers will see like manga right at their Barnes and Nobles because they still walk to these places and they're like, oh, manga sells because they're on the shelves. No, you idiot. Okay, let me explain. Uh, whatever amount of manga is on your shelf, okay, dude, there is 100 million more people online that are reading it, and that's where all the action is. You putting your book on a physical shelf is going to mean nothing, like next to nothing, like zero, dude. You like have to get like your shit. I think again, this is like copying just anime. We have to, in my opinion, we have to copy the free first. Everything is free to play now, guys. I'm sorry. Like we gotta like because that's what made them successful. Japan is successful because
Yeah,
everybody read their shit online for free,
yeah.
and then they got big, and then they could sell physical, and that's just like what we need to do.
Oh, yeah, and the funny thing, there are a couple of Western comics that indie comics, mind you, that have no
Yeah,
major publisher that have actually pulled this off in the past, and some of these were actually Tumblr comics, and
yeah,
they were surprised.
exactly.
And surprisingly, these Tumblr comics weren't typical god awful Tumblr. They were like, wow, it's like you're on Tumblr. Like, no, you need a dedicated site for this, and then they would leave Tumblr, make their own dedicated site, and say, hey, how would you guys feel? Like as an offhand comment, like, maybe it might too physical, and they like get thousands of requests and say, oh shit, you guys actually want this? I was being kind of sarcastic, but I guess I'll do it. And now they sell it on Amazon, print on demand. I
Yeah,
focus
they
on
get they get the shelf space because of the online.
yeah,
That's just it.
exactly, and that's why I focus on the sales because again, America's a country that will prefer free digital over physical any day of the week. The same way they are with
Yeah,
DVDs, Blu-rays, and Netflix. But if manga is outselling that, and people are still preferring digital, like you said, how many people are really liking it?
yeah. I mean, like,
I mean,
just
Anime
the
Expo is the biggest convention in North America for a reason. I remember, I think it was 2020. They still had it, or it was 2021 when they had it again. 2020 was digital. 2021, they had the fire marshal show up and tell them you cannot let any more people here because any more would become a fire code violation. And these,
bruh.
like, and keep in mind, this is at the LA Convention Center. They also rented out the Microsoft Theater. They rented out like 4 different venues, all within somewhat of a walking distance from one another, and they still were getting more and more sales every year. Part of it, I will admit, AX has like those Japanese performers that come over. Sometimes they even get a sneak screening of movies that will not come out for an entire calendar year. Anime Expo, like they have crazy shit there. But the fact that they just can do that, and have one of the biggest convention centers on the West Coast and still have it not be enough space is fucking nuts. Like Comic Con doesn't even have that problem. Comic Con's got everything. Comic Con has comics, manga, movies, video games, exclusive merchandise there,
Yeah,
game reveals.
they have hot cosplayers. Actually, are the cosplayers harder in Japan or in the West? I actually don't know.
It depends.
I
I don't think it's
think
fair
we have
because the
fatter ones,
Japanese ones will
right?
sometimes come over to Anime Expo.
I know for sure we have fatter ones.
Well, of course, yeah. If you mean like actual cosplayers, like professional ones, yeah, they're harder here. But the regular ones are
Uh,
actually sometimes can actually compete with them. If you go to the Comic Con, which is the biggest comic convention in Japan, you can find a whole like parade of like these cosplayers, like something even just normal people, and people just run up to them and start taking pictures like they're celebrities and stuff. It's hilarious.
yeah,
Although
it's hype, man.
some of them are look kind of weird because they have all that makeup for like the lighting, so Navi native with all the paint everywhere.
bro, I'm just scared of like Asian cosplayers because you see the videos of them like just ripping off like some silicone mask and it's like a dude underneath and you're like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah,
I
bro.
guess I think that's like all women though.
Oh, women. It's like all women are men. Oh no.
Oh no! Like I've been gaslit this whole time. All women are just men. We've all been secretly gay
You
this
have
whole
like that.
entire
You
time.
have a piano playing with like a sad Sam Smith song. I don't know if I want to live anymore, or some shit like that.
Like makeup is just like what defines a man and a woman is just makeup.
Yeah, because the thing with some cosplayers that you got to mess around with the costume a bit to get it just right. The same way the writers in Japan are more experimental. The thing is that people have a weird idea of what experiments are. People only see experiments as two things when there are three things. They see experiments as successes, and you must learn to copy that because it works, or failures, and don't copy that because it doesn't work. You never tell someone, okay, take that broken experiment, make it work. And they don't ever remember the 20, 30, 40, 50 failures. They get forgotten by history. You remember the catastrophic failures like anything that Uwe Boll has made, essentially, or you remember all the amazing ones like Jaws, E.T., Terminator 2, Jurassic Park. People don't remember those little ones in the middle that help pave the way that just get swallowed up under the limelight. I mean, yeah, Disney had its renaissance, but there were a couple other small independent films that had to be made for that shit to go down, like Thief and the Cobbler. And comics and manga are the exact same way. Everybody likes Dragon Ball Z, especially, but people know Hokuto no Ken, Fist of the North Star because of the memes, but and JoJo only recently because of the anime. But before the anime, no one really gave a shit about JoJo in the West. But that was one of the big. That's like one of the big experiments that really helped. So I think Japan does need a newer JoJo in the influence regard, not necessarily the fashion poses and everything. But America, they need a goddamn earthquake, man. They need to shake everything up.
Yeah, that was a pretty good intro. Not gonna lie. I mean, in terms of like experimentation, maybe this is just me, but I feel like Americans are like really bad at that. Like from an audience perspective, it feels like the Japanese are okay with being weirder. Maybe I'm wrong, and I think like part of that is they have an IQ that's generally higher and they're more open to more possibilities. Like Americans, I don't know. They're freaking they're so against anything. Like it's so crazy. Like people talk about how great anime is now, right? But the only reason why people started watching anime and manga recently is because the comics stopped being normal. Like they had nowhere else to turn to. Like they were forced to watch something weird, and then finally they realized, oh, it's actually pretty good.
That's most people
Like
in a
it's
nutshell. Generally speaking about anything,
yeah,
once people will hunt, they will find something that's comfortable and they will refuse to shift gears. My favorite example will always be the keyboard. The keyboard QWERTY is like one of the worst keyboards out there. Dvorak objectively is a better. What the fuck can you do now? Considering like how do you was it copy paste and cut? You know, Control X, Control C. If he told you what's that in Dvorak, you wouldn't fucking know. So it's just easier to jump between the two than because that means you have to relearn everything. Nobody wants to relearn shit, reinvent shit. It's why you'll always see those biography films of these artists like they'll tell them you can never do this, it's impossible, and then the movie's about showing how it was completely possible. But if we were alive back in their time, we probably would be joining them. It's impossible.
bro. It's uh the need. I don't know. It's so true what you're saying. Like most people just want vanilla bread, man, and it's so hard to like do anything like half interesting in like the West, and especially in my opinion, like the right wing art sphere. It's like they're stuck on like three things, which is uh, like 80s music, Conan, and what else do they like? That's like
Lord of the Rings. It's
and,
always
and, and
fucking Lord of the
Trump
Rings.
Trump girls,
Trump or Truck Girls.
Trump girls,
Wait.
like a blonde bombshell that's in like a red dress that or like a bikini, and
Oh,
like that's it.
so bimbos but without the plastic surgery, essentially.
Yeah, like you know the type, like the ones that are all on like fucking Fox News and shit. You know, like I guess what's her name?
Melania?
Fucking no, Ann Coulter, but like without if she was younger or something. I don't know what are some other blonde. You know what I'm talking about? That type. They only do that type of fucking female. It gets so tiring.
Oh,
It's
it's
like
it,
sitting
oh
here.
the funniest part is when you see like what's the meme like the never ask the white extremist what his what race his girlfriend is.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. I mean, there is the brown tomboy
yeah, it's like the only
subsection,
exception. Yeah, I know
but
what you mean.
generally, like right wingers are like so against, and like it's a problem because like if you mention anything that like makes sense, like their minds explode. Like if they're like, yo, we need to like reach the mainstream or something. How do we reach the mainstream with like right wing entertainment? And you point out like, hey, isn't Kanye mainstream? Like, shouldn't we like just kind of get his vibe or something? People will be like, no, Kanye, he's crazy. He's too weird.
Yeah, because
It's just like,
here's the thing.
yeah,
The thing is that there's either two ways to win. Try to set the clock backwards, or push the clock forward. And these people have, and a lot of them I noticed, like they've had this. I think part because they've been so belittled as kids and as teenagers for life. They've grown a strong attachment to it, to where it's like Ryan Gosling. It's literally me. So
oh shit,
and combine that with a case of like everything's not the most peachy right now, so they feel like they've missed out. Like a lot of them have that case of I was born in the wrong fucking time. That's why they want to reset the clock. Not because it's not because it's also a viable solution, because it hopefully lets them live their days that they never lived before. But you and I, we're more so the case of push the clock forward. The past is the past. Take from the past, learn from it, make your own shit. But you can't be mad that you're not wanting to push the anything forward, but anything new. And then when people try to make new shit, it's not what you want. You know what I mean? Because clearly most people don't want to go back, even
I get
within their.
that, but like it makes no logical sense though.
It
Like
only does.
like
It does for one reason only, and that's only think of like a car. If a car goes out in a ditch, you're not going to drive forward. You're going to try to back the car up and course correct. Their case is back the car up, don't touch the car. We want to back the car up, but we want to keep going forward because there's still a destination to get to. That's the difference.
yeah,
The other thing
but
is
it's
it's
like
also true within their metal circles. Like in their case, it's not just 80s music. If it's a new group that doesn't sound 80s enough. That's the keyword there. Then they're not gonna like the group. I mean, think about it. The 80s was 40 years ago, and if and
so
another couple of years is gonna be 50 years ago. You're gonna really be upset, and people want to go back half a century, and nobody wants to move forward. Of course, people don't want to go back half a century. You know what I mean? Imagine someone in the 80s said, "Fuck, man, we should go back to the 30s." They look at you like you're fucking crazy. And there's nothing
yeah,
new as substance because no one has made substance for 20 fucking years.
it just blows my mind, and it's just like guys, like there's cool stuff now. I'm not saying everything's cool. There's
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that suck. Okay, again, like with Kanye or I guess nobody wants to really rip on Nick Fuente's style. Okay, cool, whatever. I can understand that, but I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of. I think also a lot of it is they don't want to learn from anybody like who's their enemy. Like if somebody is like trans, or like gay, a lot of times people won't want to learn from them, even though they make pretty good products.
Yep, but their
You know,
enemies are willing to do the opposite. Well, at least back in the day, they were willing to do the opposite. Back in the
this
day,
and this is the important part. Yeah, that you're correct, which is that the reason why like art sucks, why art sucks, is because the right won't learn from the left. And now the left won't learn from the right. Like nobody's learning, dog. Everybody's just like, nah, man. Like it's the other side has no good points. And it's just everybody's just stuck.
oh,
It's just like,
on top of that,
yeah,
sometimes you'll look at a show and they'll see like it's all good, but then one tiny thing happens, and so it's a case of you're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You're throwing the baby out, smashing it with a hammer, throwing the water into a ditch, and lighting the church on fire and killing everybody in it because of one fucking thing. Like they say, oh, I want my show to be this, and instead of wanting a gradual return or gradual conquering, it's a case of, oh, if we don't get it all at once, it's garbage. It's what's that song,
yeah,
"Close but No Cigar," like with Weird Al Yankovic was like dating these different girls in the song. They had some really retarded, um, she had a DVD of a movie I didn't like. Her earlobe was a bit too big. I don't like the way she walks. And he broke up with all three of them, even though they were all perfect girls because that tiny stupid thing fucking bothered him.
yeah. I mean, there's so many things out here right now, like even really bad movies or whatever. All right, they have some sense of good, like sound design or art direction, or
Yeah.
they're pushing tech forward,
Yeah.
right? There's always those things that are world class level at this point in time, and right wingers are just like no, 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 it's woke, and I get it. It is woke, and it does suck. But have you considered maybe looking at the techniques of these like these art design people or these sound design people or anything? It's like it also bothers me. Like people just won't click on links, dude. Like they won't take the fucking step further. To, like just know like people doing things.
Nah, they'd
Uh,
rather watch some fucking YouTuber who tells them what to think. And this is true for both sides, not just the right. Because there's times I see reviewers. That's why, and I used to watch reviews. I used to watch like 6, 7, 10 reviewers, and now each one would say something the other one wouldn't. That 10% that was different told me really that I was going to enjoy the movie. But nowadays it's, oh, this guy said it was good, or go, I have to go see it, or this guy said it was garbage, or go, I have to start bitching about it on Twitter. It's like you can't like shit
yeah,
anymore that you like. Like, there's a difference between saying, look, I want to see it, but if out of principle I can't support it, versus
yeah,
it's shit because my favorite YouTuber says it's
yeah.
shit.
But yeah, there's just a lot of good tech nowadays, and like good. So much information out there. It's absurd how much information
Oh
there is
yeah,
out
bro. I
there.
mean, again,
And
like
like
that.
the number of people who like dog on like 3D or on, like in stuff, or just like techniques. Like it's just so astounding. They'll be like, "Oh, I only like hand drawn stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, thanks for living in fucking 1985, dude."
Okay, okay,
Like,
and here's another point. Like, if you like hand drawn stuff, learn to fucking do it. Back to Thief and the Cobbler. The guy did this movie. I think since the '70s or the '80s. I think it was the '60s or '70s, and he wanted to make a hand drawn film, and he spent 3 decades doing it all by hand. The only reason the movie never came to fruition the way he wanted to because of financial disputes, but he spent 30 years making a movie that no one else wanted to make, and he mostly accomplished it. The point is, they're gonna bitch about,
yeah,
oh, the thing was better back in the
I
day, but
mean,
think about it. Nowadays, you don't have to go to the Disney Academy, what's it called, Cal Arts. You don't have to go to a prestigious art school in Florence or Madrid. You can learn from the internet. You can literally today for $200, you can go get a cheap drawing tablet with a screen if you want that. You can save money if you want a drawing tablet with no screen, and you can
so true,
go, or yeah, you can download Krita for free. It's a free software that essentially can do Clip Studio Paint and Photoshop. You go to YouTube
so true.
and learn whatever the fuck you want to do. These guys have all the potential. Like now, for an artist in terms of creativity and tools, it's the best time to be alive. Because the product is not as good, they think they're
For
living in the
sure.
darkest of ages. Make it yourself, but they want to make clones, third-rate clones, fifth-rate clones, because they do not want to learn and understand the shit. I think they're afraid of magic tricks. Have you ever tried doing magic before? And I mean like the hocus pocus, not like Ouija board magic.
Uh, I mean, maybe once, but no,
Yeah,
I don't.
but you know how it's like out there's like little tricks and nods and little secret signals that you kind of memorize because it's not really
Yeah,
magic,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
For some people, once you pull the curtain back and show the Scooby Doo villain under the mask, the whole illusion's ruined. So I think that could
Yeah.
be a big thing that they're afraid of. Like they're afraid that if they
What?
learn, the magic will be ruined.
Oh, if they what? If they learn how to do something, like suddenly it won't be as cool anymore.
Yeah, because it's kind of
That's
like
that would be
it sounds stupid, but it's
awful.
true. Like it's like this Marvel movies, like that fight scene is so cool, and you realize that you see the pictures of it without the CGI, and you're like,
I can see that.
yeah, it's like that, you know.
I can see that. You know. I mean, I find it, you know, it's just like people who like complain about art, how much art has gotten worse, and like no Western art will ever be good again, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like, bro, my guy, just go on ArtStation, dude. Like, those people will murder literally almost every artist, like past, present. I mean, not future, because the future, but like fantastic art exists today, dog. Sorry to burst your bubble, but there's some sculptors out there that are better than Michelangelo. Okay, there's some fucking drawers out there that are better than Leonardo, the fucking Vinci. Okay, to my guy, like it's just frustrating to see people not like just kind of just spin their wheels on like just false shit. I guess they don't know that it's false, but it's like, and I guess like it's like where they're attuned to. They only see like what pop culture tells them to see, but at the same time, like you see video games, like you do know those people are like artists that like create that shit, right? like it's not like they just like artists just stopped and like people just disappeared from off the face of the earth and now all the art is AI generated. Like people are making that shit and it's like pretty good. I don't know. Like people are bizarre.
Yeah, because it's not about what you are; it's what they want you to be. You know.
That's true. That must be it. I think they have some fantasy. It's got to be it. They have some fantasy like it's all hand drawn and we use ancient techniques that fucking old people taught us from the Greek Empire. That knowledge is all lost, and it's just like I don't know, read a course like it's online, dude. Like,
Oh yeah, and for cheap too. I mean, you go to a place like Udemy, it's like $20 sometimes for a full course, and discount is really good.
bro, it's the fact that the right wing art is theoretically so amateur after all this time is actually kind of sad. It's actually kind of sad considering how big the just every single metric of like being able to learn this shit is. It's just sad, dude. Like I don't know what to say. But like again, like people are averse to like new shit. Like um what is it? I think one of the examples that's great, if you can't tell I'm a Sam Hyde fan, but um a lot of people at the time, and even I thought this, when he got his Wigger crew, like everybody thought it was the dumbest shit on the planet, okay? Like in 2024, it's clear. It's clear that was the smartest choice Sam Hyde has ever done in his fucking life. Is get fucking broke ass, wigga fucking loser ass people who smoke weed all day. They're like they're zoned into the culture and they're like kids, that like what the fuck is up? I feel like people who like hire like the old legends, like their stuff is just kind of like it's just not hitting it. Like it's just old, and
No, I
if,
get
if
you.
I compare like the fish tank to like anything that's coming out of like the right wing art sphere, it's just fish tank fucking clears, dude. It fucking smokes.
Because there's a difference between learning a classic recipe and then learning to put a new spin on it that's still respectful to the spirit of the old thing, but also still makes it viable for the new one. It was a game that came out. It was the Metroidvania, but it was like 3D, like Super Mario World. I forget what it's called. Let me
Yeah.
give you a
Was
sec.
it was it ukulele?
Not ukulele. No, ukulele was a case of it was just a copy of the old shit, just not as good. Because it
Oh.
did nothing better. Like if you're the creator of Banjo Kazooie and it's not better than Banjo Kazooie, you
Oh.
may as well go to Banjo Kazooie if that makes sense. Um,
Well, are you talking about that one with like the blue chick?
what's it called here?
The one that was made by like the Castlevania guy?
Bloodstain? No, but that counts too. Um,
That was like a Bloodstained Ritual tonight.
yeah, that was actually pretty good. Actually, had some new content. There was one more I was trying to.
Is it Hollow Knight?
Not Hollow Knight, no.
Shit, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Pseudo-Regalia, so that was the name, Pseudo-Regalia. I thought I was remembering it wrong. So,
Regalia?
it's
I've never heard of this.
okay, because it's a smaller platform game. The cool thing about it is that because you play like a goat-like creature, and with this, with the thing is that you have to like platform at Mario 64, where you have the weapons like Zelda. But the difference is that you have to explore like Metroid because it's Metroidvania. But the thing is, it actually does the one thing it does a roguelike thing where it has like all the weapon locations every time you play through it. But it makes it one of the first Metroidvania platformers to not have a linear map layout at all because of it. So in other words, as much as I hate the term roguelike because it's just a marketing gimmick, it actually used that shit to shake up the Metroidvania formula. And that's a really big fucking thing. So now since you can have two playthroughs of the same game because it's never the same twice, it gives a lot more replay value, you know?
Bro, I'm looking this up. Somebody wanted to fuck the mom in Undertale a bit too much.
I want to be surprised.
Not that I'm hating, but you know.
Yeah, but you can tell that from the gameplay that you can see, it is actually well made. It's a competently made game. It's a case where the graphics 64, where the graphics were an actual design choice and not just my favorite Symphony of the Night clone also has pixels. I got to do it that way too.
Yeah.
But you can,
It's when they clone it a little bit too much.
yeah,
It's when, like, again, like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, it seems that a lot of the right wing just does, like, X, but, like, it's not even, like, a different thing. It's like, just, like, a different shade. Here's, like, Conan, but I don't know, he has a mohawk instead of, like, flowing hair. It's just like looking at it, it's like you just made like two changes. Is that it? It's just like, damn, dude. Yeah, it's just difficult. Like, like again, this is gonna sound fucking arrogant and horrible as shit, but I feel like a lot of these people are just like pissed off consumers, and I don't know if they should be artists. Like, it's really hard to do this shit, and it's just like, they're cool people. They have good values. They're good. I like them. But the ideas they come up with, I'm just like, I don't know. This just seems like a guy who like doesn't get what, like, how again, how weird art is supposed to be, how open to possibilities art is supposed to be. They just really miss X, so they're gonna make Y, and it's just like, I don't think that's how it's supposed to work, man. It's just, you know. And I feel like their time would be better served, like, hyping up stuff that's like really good, and yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. It's really tough being an artist, and I'm not the greatest artist ever, nobody is, but it's just some people, it's like, it's like people, let's pretend that the Olympics got woke, and people in wheelchairs really hated that, so they tried to run in the Olympics and try to beat like gay people who could run the Olympics. Like, you're not beating them, dude. You're in a wheelchair. Like, I appreciate the freaking, you know, effort and but I don't know. I think you're in a wheelchair, man. I think you got like other talents, and they could be a billionaire wheelchair man. Okay, they could. I'm not hating on these people. For all I know, these people are like billionaires who all make more money, are way more successful than I will ever be. But it's just a lot of these ideas are just like, it's just simple, dude. Like, this is like super simple. This is like white bread, my guy. Like, I don't know. Some curry.
yeah, like I said, they just think it experiments as it works or it doesn't, and there's no middle. Like you don't see the behind the scenes, you know. of every bad take, every failed take, every scrap draft thrown in the trash bin.
Yeah, but it's because when you do art, you're gonna fail a lot. That's like non-negotiable.
Mhm.
But there's a certain type of like person who you can just tell when someone has, like an it factor to them, something that they're doing that like brings it to like next level, right?
Mhm.
Like for example, like I think what is it, like George Alexander's, like he's a good artist, like like it's clear that he has like an artistic bent to him, and he's like open to ideas and like kind of being, whatever. A lot of it is personality based, and I feel like, I don't know, like a lot of right wingers, their personality, they're just not, they're they're, they're too rule based, and it's like,
Well, that's how
you
most
know,
people are. I mean, like I said, remember I told you about them being belittled as a kid for for liking the shit that they did like and not liking certain things. It also comes to a case
yeah,
where a lot of kids, when they were younger, got punished for experimenting. I mean, sometimes it's as overt as
that's
"don't do that again," and seeing the kid try something crazy and getting punished for it. But sometimes it can be as simple as and unintentional as "here's a coloring book. How do you fill in a coloring book? You stay in the fucking lines."
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, again, coloring books are not harmful to children, but sometimes they get so used to the guides that when you take them away, it's oh my god, what do I do? And then that, with the fear of failure they've been instilled with for so long, it all comes in full circle. That's the reason they say sometimes the scariest thing for an artist is the blank page. Because
yeah. Like you just need to like, I don't know, be just again like open to like everything, dog. Like anything that works. If it works, like it's good. It doesn't matter like what you think about it. If it works, just fucking do it, man. Right? And like people are more, they're in love with like how things are supposed to be.
yep,
Like their imaginary version, dude. Man, you see, like if we just write another Tolkien 2, if we just make Lord of the Rings 2, dude, like we'll just take over the culture.
that's not
Like,
how it fucking
bro,
works.
I don't know if you feel this, dog. And I'm gonna say this: Lord of the Rings is like the Harry Potter for right wingers, dude.
Thank you.
Like,
Oh my god.
read another fucking book.
Like again,
Read
again,
another
like
fucking book.
again, it's not bad. It's not a terrible book at all. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of fantasy, in Western fantasy in general. But the thing is that there's only so much you can take from one book, as good as Lord of the Rings is. I mean, if you look at
Yes.
what Tolkien read, and what Robert E. Howard read, because he made Conan, they read all kinds of shit. And okay, now because I'm the guy who says Robert E. Howard made modern fantasy. You want to know where he got his
Okay.
inspiration from?
Uh, shoot.
Okay, there's this whole trend from the 1800s that didn't die out until the 1950s called Arabic Orientalism. So essentially, if a modern example, this would be like the Prince of Persia games in the movies. So these were people who were writing like so the book A Thousand One Nights or Arabian Nights was reintroduced into the Western world now with the addition of Aladdin and um, Sinbad, and that book exploded in popularity. So people were actually reading that book and other things, and they were going, "Well, why can't we make our own? We're going to follow their styles, conventions." And then slowly they added more Western stuff into it. So the first major guy who wrote romance novels after that book, because that book didn't sell well, but it was still influential in artist spheres, that the movement exploded over time. So it even led to like fake stories of Arabic traders meeting the Indians from India, or Chinese traders or the Westerners, and they had all these crazy things. Like they were following the conventions, like everything was a spectacle. You could cut heads off. Your main character could be a piece of shit but still likable because the spectacle was the main thing. There was no need of this hero is my morality or my themes. It's a case of we're just going along for the ride. The same way how you put on an Ace action flick. You don't care about this guy being on fucking PCP shooting down 300 guys. You're there to see shit blow up. But the trend when they
Yeah.
bled into the 1900s, Robert E. Howard read a couple of guys, including Jack Wolf. They did sorry, Jack London. They were like called the Wolves. They're writing stories about going like explorers like American and British going to India and Arabia, seeing all that cool stuff there. That combined with Greek literature and some Shakespeare and some other traditional fantasy, all combined, they gave Howard his identity. I mean, Howard himself even wrote a couple of those Orientalist stories, and that kind of gave the framework for how the kingdoms would work in Conan. But he was reading books from about 100, like 50, 60, 80 years before his time, writing those books, and then eventually formed his own identity with those books. And that's how modern fantasy started. Tolkien only made the more of the typical, I call it medieval fantasy because it's more like medieval with elves and other shit like that. Well, Middle Earth is probably the more correct term. But even then, he read lots of things, and Tolkien, as good as he was in prose, was much better in poetry. If you ever read any of his poems, just I like him more than his prose personally. But he also wrote other shit
Sure.
too, and was a linguist by trade. That's why he was that skilled. Tolkien made maps because he liked history. He made this Elven language because he was a linguist. He had the skills already. He built them over years. That's why it came out the way they did. Just because Tolkien has languages doesn't mean you have to. Just because Howard has Arabian elements doesn't mean you have to. But the point is, they went out, they read, they researched, they did their shit. I think it was Howard or one of his role models, one of the two, that did an Orientalist retelling of the life of Genghis Khan, and essentially they pulled the 300 with Genghis Khan, and that was pretty cool. But that's the thing; they had to leave their comfort zone, or they embraced their comfort zone and read as many as they could, both the good and the bad. Nowadays, it's like this is why I've stopped liking top 10 lists, because after a point, really, the top 10 lists, it's the best of the best, and after that, there's nothing really for most people to explore. People will watch those top 10 lists, like top 10. Like, if I read the top 10 fantasy books, people would read those top 10 books and then they would just walk away right after, because it's the best there is. Or I made top 10 video games ever. You play the best video games, it
Oh
only
my
gets worse
goodness.
from here.
Yeah. Mm. Well, I think you bring up a really good point, which is like, what is it? Tolkien is a linguist by trade. Imagine like you telling someone to do that right now. Yeah, go be a language guy to write a book. When you say it like that, it sounds dumb as hell, doesn't
Oh,
it?
and the other thing is
Like,
that Tolkien, unlike Howard, Tolkien was not a full time writer. He was a professor teaching languages, and so he wrote Lord of the
yeah,
Rings in his spare time. That's why it took so long for the three books to come out: the Sumerian, the Hobbit, and the Lord of the Rings to come out. But the thing is,
dude, like,
it took
yeah.
his time. Yeah, Robert E. Howard was a full all
When
time artist by trade, the full time writer.
when people like say like, oh, Tolkien put maps, so I'm gonna put maps. Oh, Tolkien came up with a language, so I'm gonna come up with a language. You're not a linguist, dog. All right, like maybe you want to think like the thing that people need to understand is they need to play like to their strengths. Okay,
Exactly. And that's the thing, and I hate to say it, like,
yeah,
even if you crack the Tolkien code, can you write like Tolkien? Sometimes a work is
no,
so perfect because it's the author who did it, putting himself. It's a reflection.
yeah,
If you made a clone of Tolkien, like Tolkien 2, like you said, it wouldn't work because you weren't be Tolkien. Because you don't have the Tolkien isms that make it flow together. It's not Tolkien's a god. It's
yeah,
just that you're trying to be someone else and you clearly cannot match that. It's sometimes why two products that have no that should never be compared always get compared because they're just that much of an identity um
yeah.
block.
So that's like why I hate like the rules in like the right wing sphere of writing,
But here's the
where
thing.
like people make up rules, dog.
Here's what I don't
Like,
understand though.
oh,
See,
fade to black or fucking,
there's two
you
things I
know,
hate though. Because one,
so,
most writers who understand the craft, it's like jazz music. Jazz was boiled because they understood classical and they understood blues, and they realized, what if we treated that as guidelines and then they made jazz? And now with jazz theory, you have so many popular conventions that are commonplace today. If you've ever heard, funk, disco, Motown, rap, hip hop, any of that shit, you've heard jazz rules in that music before, but you don't know it because they made it so common sense. But someone had to break those rules by learning them first. Learn the rules to bend the rules and break them to make new rules. And second thing is
yeah,
that another reason why I hate top 10 lists is that you always have number one being this quote unquote gold standard. The gold standard is only standard because the gold standard broke and bent the old rules. And so essentially, you're
yeah.
number one because you get to bend and break the rules, but now everyone two and under now has to follow the new rules, and they're not allowed to bend and break those rules. You gotta see the problem
Bro,
here?
yeah, yeah. You're that's like dead on, dude. Like they come up with oh, we can only go this far, and this is it. And the clear and obvious answer is it only gets interesting when you fucking kick that rule to the curb and like go all in, you know. And people get this in the wrong way. Like, be like, oh, that's just subverting, right? Like,
No, 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 no.
uh,
Subverting
like you
is when
can
you
like,
do. No, subverting, to clarify, is when you do it only to piss people off or to do it. What's an example that was not subversion? Tchaikovsky. You know Tchaikovsky, right? The Nutcracker guy.
uh, I've heard of him, yeah.
Yeah, he's a Nutcracker guy. He was trying to write this piece, and I forgot what it was because there was a classical structure that you're supposed to follow. Like it's like you have to follow the form like A, B, C, B, and there's this middle part. He was just struggling to write it. He couldn't write it. Like he legit was banging his head against the wall, couldn't figure it out. So he said, "Fuck it, I'm better at this kind of composition." I think it was like a waltz composition. And so instead of following that form of that, it was normal structure. Went into the waltz and then went back to the part where he wasn't stuck anymore. At that time, I was like, "What the fuck's he doing?" But like, he put a waltz in the middle of this other piece, and it works. And he didn't do it because he was trying to subvert expectations. He did it because he was stuck in a corner and had a fucking deadline. It's one of his most famous pieces outside the Nutcracker. Russian
Makes
names,
sense. I
man.
mean, like, but like even if that was true, like subversion, right? Like, okay, fine. Like we subverted. Like the subversion is now the rule. Now we have to go all in on fucking up subversion. And that's very different from just being normal, right? Now we know that subversion exists. Like we can like super kill subversion, you know? And like if we're looking at it from that perspective, now we can like attack this in all kinds of different ways, like making fun of subversion and stuff like that, and going all in on fucking subversion up. It's just like yeah,
Yeah, learn the rules to
a,
bend and
a
break
lot of
them. Yeah, just I mean,
yeah,
at the end, do what's best for your story. I mean, just because I got things like I like to compare it to Guitar Gear, kind of a musician. But like for example, I've got my musical influences that I like. You know what I mean? But just because my
yeah,
favorite guitarist has this brand of guitar, let's say like I'm not gonna go out and buy that. But I know people who legit will go out and they're trying to learn guitar for the first time and they actually spend the money buying pretty much a similar model to the Hero. It's like the flying V guitar, right?
is that the one
It was kind
that
of like a triangle.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, I tell people always go to the guitar shop, find what fits best for you because guitar like the frets where you place your fingers for the guitar, they're different sizes. Some are bigger, some are smaller, some are fatter, some are longer. And you need to find because you can only make a guitar sound better by upgrading the electronics, but you cannot make a guitar play better unless you change the neck or the guitar. So I've seen too many people buy a flying V because it looks cool, but when they sit down to play or play standing, it's awkward and it's uncomfortable. Like, yeah, just because Metallica looked good with the flying V back in the 80s doesn't mean it's going to be your guitar. The same way how Slash looking good with the
yeah,
Gibson might not be good for you because you don't like the weight balance. Yamaha, lots of good basses use Yamaha, but those frets are fucking huge, like bigger than normal. Better sound, but you have to really jump around. What's best for you? You can always change. You can always change how something sounds, but you can never change how it plays. You can change the rules of what you need your world to work with, but you cannot change tropes. If that makes sense. So you have to know how to use them.
I think they respect their elders too much. Like
Now, no, the
I
elders,
think it,
though the elders need to beat their ass more.
yeah, but like it's just that they're like, oh, Michelangelo is so great. Nobody can ever be Michelangelo. They just tell themselves this, and it's like,
Well. To be fair,
uh,
it's true because nobody nowadays wants to paint an entire goddamn building by themselves on fucking fresco.
that's true.
Nobody
That's
wants. They
true.
don't want to go out and buy a block of clay and learn how to sculpt it. They don't want to learn how to draw with pen and ink or for red chalk. You can't beat the masters if you're not going to learn similar skills that they did. Was it like Disney masters? They always learn from the Renaissance, but they also learn from cartoonists, and they also learn from real life. They like a lot of time for those dance and fight sequences, they'd hire real people, and then they would realize, okay, that real life subtle is exaggerated, and that's how they built the principles of animation. They had to learn, and they put back in. Exceptions would be rotoscoping, but that was a car. Cars are hard to draw.
Yeah, and I think it is like again like just playing your own game because I have you noticed like when Westerners now because anime is so popular they like try to be anime, and it just, at least in my opinion,
Oh,
comes off as fucking like weird.
it's
Like you
not
don't
the
know what you're talking about.
see because the thing is that there was older American anime was Western anime was never not a thing. That you know Daft Punk, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, Daft Punk, you know Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger. Remember that music video with the blue people?
Yeah.
That's an entire fucking
Uh,
French animation production in collaboration with Japan. That whole album,
okay.
like it's like 60 minutes, but the entire soundtrack is literally just a Daft Punk album. So that was as early as the 2000s. You also had Martin Mystery, which was bande dessinée, but it was done in the anime style. It was an Italian bande dessinée, but it worked well. And the same team who made Totally Spies. Different company was Code Lyoko. In the States, you had a parody of that stuff with Kappa Mikey because they had actual anime voice actors from the West, but they were making fun of tropes and everything, so which is why it was a fun show. Even though the art style was kind of horrendous. Then, of course, the most famous one, The Last Airbender, which so good people debate if it counts as anime or not because it understood, it had a story, it did break anime conventions, but it took elements of what became its own thing. It's not perfect. No fucking work is ever going to be perfect, but it got
Yeah.
pretty damn close. And there were other ones that came after that were not so good, like that CGI Speed Racer, and then all the crappy Netflix shit like Castlevania, the Voltron, or just the aesthetic of it, but none of the writing or stability.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like when people make characters and it's like, Sam Chan, we need to go out back with the cherry blossoms in my manga. It's like, you don't live in Japan, right? Like you,
Like,
like I feel like a lot of times, like just because of how degenerate America is, like, they avoid all things like degenerate American, and because again, like, yeah, they want to live in this fantasy world, like this ideals. They have these ideals. Japan represents my ideals, so I must be like Japan, and like draw things that are like in Japan or whatever. And like when I say copy Japan, I just mean like um not what they make, but like the techniques that they employ and the whys of their techniques that they employ. Uh, when it comes to like you writing dialogue that where you like pretend like it's Japan, or like the kids are into Japan, into like freaking manga now, so we gotta write our dialogue like manga. Like, nah, dude. Like, at least for me in my art, uh, I try actually to be as American as humanly possible, and because that's the shit that that I know, right? And it's like when like when you're in that zone of things, it just works.
um,
And I'm not saying you can't do research, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, I feel like
yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of
No,
people,
because you said that
some
right
people
there.
can research, but
And
I
that
think a lot of
bingo.
people are like doing it accidentally. They're not thinking about it when they're
No,
doing it.
you did it. You said it right there. Research. That's a saying. Write what you know. But they don't
Yeah,
understand that if you don't know, you research it. Then you know. Then you write about that shit. Again, some people are like very hyper. They're into the shit. Like they will do like some people do like field research or. But nowadays you got the internet, so you can find like interviews with people who live there, Wikipedia, as a starting point, not as your final reference, and other stuff you can do. It's a lot. It's very easy nowadays to get this information that you need to do, but it's hard. Or worse, they have no intention of research because you just want to copy one thing. Like I guarantee, let's pretend it was a holy grail book that you could read. If you read it, it would guarantee a best-selling manga no matter what. How many people do you think would pick up that book and just make another Dragon Ball Z clone? How many people would pick up that book just for that shit? Or a Western comic, but in anime form?
yeah.
They wouldn't make anything interesting with
I
it.
mean,
Like, what's his
oh,
what's his name? Go Nagai. You know him, right?
I'm pretty sure is he the guy that made the Assassin manga, or is that
His
somebody
one of
else?
the famous works is Devilman.
Oh, he made Devilman Crybaby. Okay, I was thinking of somebody else.
Yeah, because Devilman, he's made a couple other works, including Kekko Kami, which is kind of a parody of Sentai girls and all that stuff, with the girls basically naked. Mazinger Z, that's his other famous one. But one he made I
Okay,
really love is Cutie Honey because she's one of those android girls. So she was one of the first big android girls that came out.
Mm.
fighting like monsters and demons and other shit like that. But because she was also very action heavy, he inadvertently made her the first shonen female protagonist. And he says like, I just liked it because I want to see hot robot girls fight. I didn't do it because I wanted to break barriers and shit. But it's so popular that ever since the 70s, it's had at least one animation every generation. So one in the 70s, one in the 80s. The 90s one got two. There were two of them in the 90s. There was the early 90s one that was very dark, like very gave her the most personality and depth out of all of them. And the late 90s one was basically her doing it in the Sailor Moon stuff. Like the studio that made Sailor Moon was commissioned to make that one to replace Sailor Moon once that thing ended. And then there was like two of them in the 2000s. One I think came out last decade, and there were two live actions, and 90s live action show and a stage play. But despite all of those different incarnations, all of them tried something new. All of them experimented. All of them did research on the markets, but all of them still feel very in line with the character, even though they could cater to completely different demographics.
Well, they're fundamentally Japanese, right? And I
Yeah,
mean, maybe
but
I feel like some of them, like, was it? I think the Bizarre JoJo's Bizarre Adventure guy
yeah.
kind of draws with like a Western kind of vibe to him.
Well,
Uh,
considering the first two parts were in the West with England and the United States, and he goes back to the United States for part four, and then I think it's part six of Steel Ball Run was also in the West. I'm not surprised. It's like it's like that. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is that annoying half Japanese, half Western, where it's so Western. If you love Japanese stuff, you're not gonna like it. But if it's so Japanese, if you like Western stuff, you might not like it. But Gona Guy
no,
did.
but it's like
Oh, God, no.
it's good for like what it is.
What is, yeah, the art's is debatable, but because depending on the arc, but yeah, the writing is pretty top notch. But that's one of the big ones that inspired everybody. Like Fist of the like even though it took from other influences, like part three was essentially his response to Fist of the North Star. But look, he did the research on what made the characters in the cast work, and then put that in JoJo. He didn't make it a post-apocalyptic. He took the similar premise in terms of the
Yeah,
cast, not the actual surroundings.
but I think like it's like for all its Western influences, it's still really Japanese, with, like all the poses and stuff like that. Like I think a good example of like anime use in the West is like all the new like freaking emo music or whatever, like hyper pop and shit, where they put anime stuff into it. I think that stuff is integrated really well. Um, but I feel like a lot of these other things that people are making, and they just try to copy manga. It's it's not like true integration. It's like copy integration in a weird sense. I
No,
don't know.
no, no, no. I know what you mean. It's like, hey, we reference this manga, we like, or this anime, we like it too, and you're like, wow, I recognize that
Yeah,
reference. It's not like it's a fundamental part of storytelling. It's just, hey, here's a visual you remember. They're playing with the memory
I,
games.
I don't even know if they really like it. Like, do they like it? You know, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell sometimes. Where I guess they really do love it because they're making it and it's like a super fan copy. But um, some people could definitely. I don't know if I see a lot of this. Some people could definitely be like they're doing it for the money and the exposure and oh people like anime so we should do anime. I think more than most probably a lot of they're just like super fans and they kind of don't get it out of their head. But like again, yeah, it's just I think there should be a clarification, right? Because I feel like I'm saying, we should copy the East because they're better than us. But then I say, yeah, but don't actually copy the East. You know, it's again, it's knowing what your game is. Like you live in America or whatever, you live in the West. Play to that. Know your strengths, but like when like your competitors, it's not the extra stuff on top. It's not the anime fucking eyes, right? It's the things like structure, like uh, selling online. Those other things that, or like boobs. Japan has more boobs than the West. Like just general things that you can see, and then like you have your own twist on it that you know better than the Japanese that you can like use to like push forward.
Like, I
And
thought of
that's what I mean by
I
like
thought of a weird
yeah,
example when you mentioned that. Like I don't know, this might be an underrated or forgotten cartoon. Do you remember an old show by the name of Chaotix?
chaotics. I just know that's like Sonic shit.
No, not to be confused with Team Chaotix. It's a different thing. So this was a Western cartoon, but clearly had lots of influences from a lot of those trading card games at the time. But that show, what they decided to do is they mixed elements of Monster Hunter, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Digimon in there. So essentially, you have like arena fighters using these card decks and all that stuff. But the thing is, you can only build card decks by going out like Monster Hunter to find these animals, and like Pokemon and Digimon, you have to actually scan the creatures. So you have the humans get into real life danger trying to find these monsters to scan them, turn them into cards and everything. And at the end, they would use them off in battles. It's the cartoon still looked very Western. It still felt very Western, but the battle sequences you can tell were very much Japanese. But the content itself was original. It wasn't like Duel Masters and Yu-Gi-Oh's Duel Monsters. So in a way, it stood
Yeah.
out. I mean, it's sold well enough in the West, but when you're competing with, I think it was Yu-Gi-Oh GX at the time, and yeah, you're gonna that's an uphill battle, bro. GX was like peak Yu-Gi-Oh for most people. It's like, hey, the game's not broken anymore until they broke it again.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah. But yeah, it's just yeah, just do the thing. Just do the thing that we say because we're always right. You're always wrong. you know, ignore. And in a weird way, I will say this: contradictions are is what makes it real in some ways. Because I feel like this in art all the time. Um, sometimes you write stuff that like contradicts your beliefs, but it makes it better. And
Yeah, because you're writing for
I
the
feel
story. The story is still,
yeah,
as long
and
as the story is still you in spirit, not necessarily a clone of you, it can still work. I mean, yeah,
yeah, the contradictions are what like make it real. I feel. But, you know, maybe we're just wrong. Maybe we were always wrong. We've just been gaslighting you on this podcast this whole time. We just took you along for a ride. But
yeah, because you're saying about how
I don't know if you have anything else.
because you're
What?
saying how it contradicts beliefs
Yeah,
and all that stuff. What about if like there's cause how does that go back to being in a potentially non-overtly political story? It's not like Rambo. We have that speech like I shoot the communists because I love my country. What if it's more subtle,
you,
like
you,
like Batman? You can clearly tell it's like I do it for Gotham. He's not doing it for the world, but you can tell that you're supposed to take that message away from that.
I feel like some of it may be like a genre thing.
Because you sit because
Where I feel like heroes are done. I
because
feel like it's just over. Like people trying to make superhero universes are like this. You're in the like you can't replicate that. Like superheroes were a thing,
no,
and it was like at a
I,
creation point.
no, I was being so more
Yeah,
for what they stand for. Like if you use the Matrix for example, like Neo is symbolic of like free will and forging your own destiny, but he's not telling everyone,
yeah,
"Come on, guys, we all gotta be free thinkers
yeah,
together. High five!" Like you said here,
yeah,
non-political story means your non-political villain is somehow more evil than the most satanic trans person, which is
yeah.
retarded. Like that.
Yeah, well, that okay. Let me explain that point. I just find it weird that like non-political people they write evil people in their stories, and like in real life, because there is the rule that you got to keep your stories realistic, and like they try to make villains that like aren't political, so that you just have like, oh here's our old white guy again that's like evil, or this mass serial killer, and I'm just sitting here like. I think trans librarians are a much worse villain. I don't really buy this guy's evility. I don't, yeah, it's just and I just think it's dumb. I just think it's dumb when people try to shackle themselves. I think not trying to think about it too hard, like, is what really works. Um, you know, don't say you're gonna be non-political. Don't say you are gonna be political. Just do what you like, man. And don't think about it too hard. Because obviously, I'm jacked into the memes, I'm jacked into like whatever political's happening, but not everybody is like that. But I feel like some people take the non-political shit too far, and they're trying to like, you know, when they seriously want to be political, possibly, and they're not allowing themselves to be. So, there's a million non-political stories you can make. I will say that I don't know if they could carry the zeitgeist and like the energy of what is coming next, because I think we're in a very special place right now in history where a lot of things are coming to light. A lot of things like you can just find out, and like shit is happening like so fast, and like this is like you can feel the energy within it. If you're being non-political, I would say at best like stay current. Like look at what's happening around, and then like if you do that right, like if you write like just a love story, like how can you not make it political? Because there's things like hypergamy, there's things like, you know, was it no fault divorce or
Yeah,
whatever?
that's
There's things
why.
like
Yeah, that's why I say overtly political because it happens unintentionally. I mean, you something people just don't think about. Like, oh, it's like realistic fiction. People do realistic fiction because a lot of them is just story take place in my everyday life, and they don't realize the
yeah,
tones are there. It's that's why like when they have a story, a message, but because of how they set it up and they don't realize that they're not creating the angle that they actually want to push. Like like all these self-insert stories where it's like he's the good guy, but like yeah, but your good guy, quote unquote, is actually a terrible person because they're greedy,
yeah,
self like
yeah,
that. Like, they don't realize it. They're just writing for, and they don't check. It goes over the heads. That's why I say overtly
yeah,
political because overtly political means it's clear as hell that you're doing this intentionally. Whereas, but also goes back to death of the author. Like some people say, like death of the author is a thing because the moment it leaves your hands, they'll have their own interpretation. The difference between having a genuine, honest, based on your own opinions versus I want to shoehorn what I believe into the story by
well,
ignoring certain
well, they can
parts and forcing
try.
over.
Like it's like I think the perfect example is Watchmen, where the guy is clearly making up, in my opinion, a political point. He has all these fucking, here's the doomsday clock, we're all gonna go to nuclear war, and the comedian was in Vietnam and he killed a bunch of people, and this is horrible,
Yeah,
and all this stuff.
yeah, that's more
And
overt. Yeah, because there's two
yeah,
British guys
but
writing that shit.
but but even when he does do it, here's the simple fact about Watchmen, and the other opinion on this is wrong, is that it's a story about how Rorschach is the hero and everybody else sucks. Okay,
Yeah,
even though that's not what
that's
Alan
exactly what I mean.
wants.
That's exactly what I mean. Like I can tell because there were two writers. It was Alan Moore and someone else. I think I have the book here. What's his name? Um, yeah, Dave Gibson. Yeah, that was the other guy. Yeah, because Moore
Dave
had the
Gibbons was the artist, though, wasn't he?
was he the
Dave
artist?
Gibbons
Because Alan Moore
was
had
the
had a
artist.
co-writer on that shit where Moore had the themes and some other dialogue, but then the other writer helped them put it together, and they just had a bunch of notes in a notebook, and then they put all of them in there because like you put this in there, put that in there, and they realized only after they published it, oh fuck, we made this shit way too fucking dense. And so, that's why we hear always about Alan Moore saying, "No, Ozymandias is right," because they put so much detail into the work, more than that they could keep track of. Some of the things that slipped under the
Oh,
radar gave Rorschach a lot more points. You know what I mean? Like if they wanted Ozymandias to be right, they should have trimmed out a lot of the fat. Or,
it may be a
but I also think,
question, not a question, but it may be the point that Alan Moore is more talented than he is intelligent. And in that sense, he knows like what is actually artistically good, but he's just dumb. And we've all seen people
oh,
like
it
that.
makes
Their
sense.
art is
Like,
fucking fantastic,
oh yeah,
but his intelligence is not there.
I get you. That would make some
But he
sense.
could he just he picks up on real shit. Like Alan Moore, like I know some people like try to put down Alan Moore. Alan Moore is like the real fucking deal. Okay, he just is. Um,
No, I get you. Like
he
some
doesn't have to be your favorite author, but
no, I get that because people also have this belief that that's one thing I hate in general about artists, and I mean I don't care if it's a music artist or a painter, or a writer, or whatever. That just because you're a good artist means you have good morality. No, it doesn't fucking mean
yeah,
anything. You could be. Was it Tolkien hated Disney? Tolkien hated the American War. He hated sorry, Miyazaki hated the American War, but he makes great animation. Especially
Yeah.
But and especially his war movies, ironically, are some of the best shit out there, despite being a pacifist himself. But Tolkien hated the Roman Empire. Tolkien hated Disney, and his shit is like one of the greatest empires ever written in his books
Yeah.
because he knew about history. You can like something and hate it. Like what was it? Mr. Bean, the actor Rowan Atkinson, said he loves Mr. Bean because it's the kind of person he would despise in real life, but that's why he's so fun to play. People just get so much and think that the work is the artist, and that's not always true. And I
The
think,
work is part of the artist,
but
but I
it's
think
not them to 100%.
yeah, at some point, and I guess we'll get into this maybe in the next podcast where they they are a conduit for something that was bigger than them. Their talent picked up on something that was like bigger than who they were at the moment, and they were just like channeling that shit or whatever, and that's something. And when you have that artistic antenna to like know what's up, well, you're still a fuck up. I mean, it is what it is. So yeah, I mean, like non-political stories, you could definitely make those. You could for sure, but I don't think you can go into it being like it's gonna be non-political because, like again, like this is the thing, like your politics are your beliefs. Like back in the 1800s, you could do slavery was cool and people had these beliefs, but like everybody acts now like being anti-slavery is a universal belief. It's like maybe in 200 years it won't. Maybe in 200 years we'll have slavery again. Is that political to like put it in? Just someone is gonna make a pro-slavery comic.
Yeah, you got a point there because if you look about why it works in your work, if you do it more like the Slavs and the Romans and Arabs, where it was just whoever lost got conquered. That's one thing. If you're doing it where supposedly it's only ethnic based, supposedly because it depends on how your world's going to be. You can have all these characters be the same race or ethnic group, or they can have different ones just to keep it interesting. Then that maybe the race may or may not be a factor. It depends. Is it more socioeconomic? Is it more sociopolitical? Is it just ethnic? Or do you believe there's a caste system? Where like you are born to be a slave because you're born in this family. That's another thing you can go
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
Depends on what you do and put into it.
And like you're correct on that. Like India has like a whole caste system, right? Like I don't know if it's slavery, but like
Oh
I've
yeah, no,
heard many
no,
people like
it's not
argue with
slavery,
that.
but you can't really progress up. But I'm saying if you want to make it that extreme for the work, you can.
Yeah, I mean, like someone in India could write about that or whatever, and you'd be like, "That's political, man. You can't write." Like, yeah, they can.
Yeah.
But also, like, I just wonder, like, think about this. Okay, so it may be that the whole thing is just like in politics, people are just like aware of it. So like when you're in the flow zone and you're like doing really good, right?
Mm.
And then you notice that you're doing really good, and when you're aware of it, like you stop being good. Do you know what I'm talking
Oh,
about?
I know what you mean. It's like I'm on a roll, and then you're like, oh shit, I'm stuck again.
Yeah, I think that may be what like politics and art was. Like nobody really thought about it. They were on a roll. They were just like, it's just whatever, dude. But like now that like people are aware of it, like it's like stopping their game. Like they're like, I'm for it, I'm against it. Like it's just kind of like there, and it's tripping people up.
Hmm.
Like it may be like a kind of like they're just aware that it like exists now,
Hmm.
you know, and they're just like they don't know what to do with that, and they're just kind of confused.
No, I get you. It's like those little kids. Little kids start dancing, and the people tell the kid, "Why are you dancing? There's no music."
Yeah, and they're just like, oh fuck. Well, I guess I won't do politics anymore. Sorry. Or the left will be like, oh, like the left isn't even wrong. Like they can do politics. They're again like they're not even wrong. I feel like you should do politics, but like you just don't want to do the politics that are actually cool right now.
Oh yeah,
And they just
because
keep doing uncool politics.
yeah,
And it's like,
the
bro, this
only
is
reason I
just
could
sad.
see to avoid that would be if you want to avoid dating your work heavily. Because everything's I'm one of the believers that believe everything is a product of their time,
Mm,
inadvertently
yeah.
or not. But if there's a difference between being like, ah, it's it's from the '70s, it's still pretty cool to watch, versus, oh my god, that was like such 2000s, I can't watch this again.
Mm.
Because like
It's
Superbad,
very
because
interesting.
Superbad is 2000s, but it still works. But you look at like those later shitty parody movies, like where it's just reference after reference, like Disaster Movie, which is the worst one. It's like, yeah, it's such a time capsule in the worst of ways.
Hmm. I, I can see that. Yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about. I feel though that maybe I'm one of the rare people, but I love dated stuff so much. It's like I just love it when you can clearly tell which time this came from, and it is like a super time capsule. Like it's like saying that like imagine if like noir didn't have like all the things that made it like noir with the freaking black and white light shading and the honky tonk music or whatever, you know, and like we just like focused on what made it quote unquote universal. I think half of the reason people like noir
Yep.
is because of the aesthetics of its time.
Oh yeah,
It feels dated.
yeah, because there's noir and neo noir for sure. But that's what I mean. Like, there are things, there are times when it's universal, but there's enough universal aspects that you can keep going back to it. That's the reason why people like. I mean, narrative wise, can still
I
watch
think it.
older noirs. But then
I
there's
feel
some.
like it may be because you were in it. Like, how should I explain it? If you had kids, your kids may love the things like it, it's like looking on a past mistake. You're embarrassed by it, right? But like people like from maybe a couple generations out looking outside back in, they'll look at your mistakes and see what like that it was actually super unique. Like
Mhm.
you cringe, you're cringing at it, right? Like it's like embarrassing because like you feel like that was of your time, like you made a mistake, but like someone else would be like, oh, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one of those really bad time capsules movies where the one where they're trying to shove in. Okay, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Have you ever seen any of those films?
Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I don't think so.
All right, because they had four films. The first three are like Malcolm in the Middle, where it's clearly 2000s, but it has a lot of those like universal elements about family that keep it really watchable. But the fourth film was like,
Hmm.
hey, let's put all these trends here. Let's put smartphones in there and focus on quirky YouTubers. All these ripoffs of them, and so it feels very dated by all those things instead of more of the universal elements because it was more style for substance, and the style was not very
Hmm.
good.
I don't know. Um, I'm really into that stuff.
All right. Well, I'm just
Like
thinking. I'm just thinking like some people like want that shit to be like really replayable, like where it being a time capsule helps with the message of it, and not just like, oh, watch this guy do the twerk because that was a thing that Miley Cyrus did how many years ago.
okay, I can see like basic like it's just reference, but I think again like
but
it's things people don't really know. Like if you think about it, like what is it? Stuff like Death Note. Um, I think Death Note it's so great because of the time it was made in. Like the whole plot is based around stuff like you can't do that shit now. It doesn't fucking work. I think that guy tried to make like Death Note 2 where it was more in modern times. How would you do Death Note in modern times? And it just didn't hit like the same,
oh yeah, but that's
because
what I mean. Like those are
yeah,
elements from the world that help in the story narrative. I mean, when I say in the worst way, I mean legit just reference, 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 reference. That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
yeah,
Because
I
area,
can
like you
see that.
said,
Yeah,
like I said, and like you are saying, everything's a product of their time, one way or another. It's either what they're trying to dodge in their current time, or what they're trying to use the current time for their advantage.
it may be super self awareness,
Also, that's
but
true. Yeah.
just like laughing at yourself, like it may be a sincerity thing. I don't know, but yeah, I get that. That for sure. It, yeah, who knows? That's about it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Unless you want to talk about how the 2000s ground of realism is more fantasy, because that was the thing of its
Oh
time.
yes, that's the last. That's what I was thinking about. I was like, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Yeah. So we may be treading. We already talked about in
Yeah,
this
it's
episode
how
or
it's how it
whatever, but
goes. You know what I mean? Like, We just go in circles.
Yeah, I feel like 2000s, like not 2000s, but like the atheist movement, um, with its all of its things of making things super grounded and realistic. Uh, I think it's coming out now that all of that shit is like actually a fairy tale. Like real life has like this spiritual realm. And when I look at things that like are super grounded and like, when they're like, yeah, Star Wars is midi chlorians now, guys. It's like this is fake as fuck, dude. Like there's no way we live in a world where everything is super materialistic and they're like, yeah, this is super grounded, bro. Freaking the boys, or I don't know if the boys is grounded. Kick ass. Okay, this is a superhero in real life, and if it happened in real life, he would get his ass kicked. You know, and it's fake. Like people can see now that there's a lot of spirituality, just things move around, evil exists, all this crazy shit. You know, when I look back on all those like all that old shit, when people were like trying to make things more grounded, trying to make things more quote unquote realistic, and I find it like a fantasy now. Like it's like it's a really fun fantasy where you live in a world where like God doesn't exist, but it's essentially fake and it's super fantastical and I it's more fantastical than fantasy in many ways because it's just not based on reality. It's not real. Like they like these guys really thought that we were just atoms floating in space and that was all life and you could make a story about that. Like it's like this is a fantasy, dude. Like yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No, I think there's a point to that, but I think it depends what you're doing with the fantasy. Like when we had those robotics craze in like the early 2000s, with like iRobot, you know, in that case, what it means to be human and all that stuff. But it's the way it's set up with all of that. Like if you're telling me that logic only works a certain way, but then how can robots ever hope to replicate that?
Hmm.
Unless you,
I never
unless,
watched iRobot, so
well, you know how most robots movies are nowadays. But like robots are humans too; they can feel things, or if they can't feel things, can we still care for them like humans and somewhat like yada yada? The typical robot ethics debates.
oh my goodness, yeah. That shit's dumb too. I I hate that shit so much with like a burning passion. Not because of like what it is, because how everybody pretended. Because I'm assuming this is how it goes. Is that the robots should have rights. We love the robots. Humans are the real evil guys. They say all this shit. They made art of this shit for like years, like Ghost in the Shell. Oh, the robot has the art and will transcend. We'll get the fucking neural link on our head. And it's 2024 and everybody hates AI. You guys lied for fucking years, dude. Like fucking, I hate all of you. Just because it's just like it's so stupid. Like people pretend like, if Optimus Prime came down, I would be Sheila LaBeouf and I would fuck Megan Fox. No, you wouldn't. You'd be the guy that would be like protesting Optimus Prime on the side of the road. You'd be a fucking robot racist dog. Like shut
Bro,
the fuck up.
the only one I can think that was kind of hilariously funny. Oh, it's like weird. Was District 9. That was more aliens than robots.
Was that the same shit? Yeah, they'd be against aliens too.
So
I
the
don't give a
funny thing
fuck.
is,
It's
I
the
think
same
the
shit.
director of his own country asked people like, "What are your thoughts on the immigrants?" So they just took all that shit and put it in a blender. They made that about the aliens on District 9.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. People would just people are just they live in this fantasy world, man. They're just like, I would save the world. Like, no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't, dog. You don't. It's like when they finally hit reality. Like they were happy to play in their fucking playground for like years, but then like reality hits and they're like, oh no, we can't do this. The AI is gonna take my gerbs. They're gonna take my gerbs. What am I gonna do? I don't know, dude. Maybe you shouldn't have just made like shit art for like for the past like 20 years or something. I don't know, but just be real. Like it's so crazy. Like I don't know. Like don't you think it's weird? Like everybody who like is a fan of Ghost in the Shell like hates transhumanism. Like I never really cared because like I'm just like nah, robots don't have rights because they're robots. I think that's pretty obvious. Like these people who thought they were intelligent for 5 seconds because they were like, oh yeah, the robots should have rights. Just like, dude, you hate them so much now, and you're like, and most artists are like anti-AI. They're like, I'm an anti-AI artist. So you never really believe all the like, and the crazy part is that they'll be anti-AI artists while like watching Ghost in the Shell. It's bizarre. It's like fucking schizophrenia, dude.
Yeah, it can be crazy. I know with Motoko because she still technically has a human brain and spine. That's like her out and everything, but everyone else can be fair
Yeah, but
game.
she merged with the robot at the end of the movie, right? And that's what happens.
Yeah, but it's
That's
still like,
also is
but it's still one of those canon things where it's like they can change robotics, but they still got to put the brain and spine in a lot of other shit. Like, so it's a case of it's a fusion of the two.
yeah,
So
yeah,
in the case,
and that's what I'm saying. Like,
synchronization, harmony, it's not she sacrifices her brains to become all human, like some crazy people would do in other science fiction works.
yeah, but like, how many people hate Elon Musk and his Neuralink or whatever?
It's because he owns a Tesla. And it's
Like
the only electric vehicle people give a shit about. no one's gonna buy
I'm
a
not even.
because no one's gonna buy an electric vehicle. Fucking Ford. That's why. Like, I hate
Yeah,
Elon Musk, but I have to buy the electric vehicle. It's like, no, you don't. You can just
yeah,
buy an
bro,
old
that
car.
is true. But yeah, yeah, yeah. They just, I gotta be green, man. I gotta be green. But like, and I'm not even like saying that you should get a Neuralink. I think
Yeah.
Neuralink is probably gonna be bad for you. But it's just, yeah, they're just like, I need the electric car, man. But like Elon Musk is selling it, so they like just grit their teeth. Like, I mean, we do it, right? Like we'll be like, I hate woke shit, and then Star Wars comes on. I mean, people are getting better at it now, but
Yeah.
like, you'll be like, oh, I used to love Star Wars, and now it's like horrible. I don't know, but it's not just Ghost in the Shell too, because like Deus Ex was the same thing. I think like what is it? The optimal route in Deus Ex is like the guy fusing with like the AI or whatever in Deus Ex.
But that
Like that was a thing for a while.
Deus Ex is a weird one because at least in the for the first game, um, none of the three endings are particularly canon. Like the official canon story in the second game is a mix of all three endings.
Yeah, I know, but like it feels like they're nudging it towards the transhumanist kind of angle.
Well, because
Like
it's because they have to because
this.
it's how they do it is they fuse it with humanity. Because no, it's like because that's the thing about fiction in general. At least with the fantasy, because even the only thing about the fantasy that you can never break is that you don't watch the end of humanity to see the end of humanity. You watch the zombie apocalypse to see the people survive the apocalypse. You don't watch it to see every single person fucking die. You watch horror film where people are going to die because you want to see them escape, even though subconsciously you want to see the
Mm,
traps and other terrible shit fail.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, like what they watch the robot movie to transcend. I mean, I get it. It's just the disconnect is so unreal. You know,
Mm.
you think about it, and it's just like, damn, man. Like, nobody actually does. Like, 'cause it was just annoying for years. I think that's probably why. It's just for years, people would like religious shit or fucking the robots are the future, man. And then it comes around or whatever, and it's just like, nah, man. I hate robots. This whole time, I hated robots. Dickheads. So I don't know. Maybe now in the future they'll make anti-robot, anti-AI, fucking stories or whatever. But you know, who knows? Who knows what the future holds?
Yeah,
But yeah. Is that it? Is that all we got?
pretty much. I would just say for the 2000 realism, if you want a cool one, check out The One with Jet Li.
At leave the one.
Essentially, Jet Li's this time traveler cop, and he has to fight every one of the 124 doppelgangers. And once he does, he become the one. It's really cool. It's really cheesy. It's all the best things about late '90s, early 2000s action flicks put into one, down to the ending sequence.
This looks like the Chinese Matrix. It
Well,
has to be, right?
in terms of being an over top spectacle, yeah, but that's because they wanted Jet Li to be more than just like just be. We want Jet Li to be more than just say one line here, say one line there. It's like case of hey, you want to actually destroy shit like almost like a Bollywood kind of movie. Well, let's do it. But,
Hmm, okay.
but it was
Well, I
it was
mean,
an American funded production, I think, if I remember.
maybe one of these days I'll check it out. But you, the viewer, should check it out because that's what's cool. Shimo recommended it, so therefore it's gonna knock your socks off.
Any recommendations
But
you've got?
yeah,
Comic games for the audience to check out until the next one.
for shit, like regular, like just like stuff I'm doing,
Oh,
or
like if
not
like
not stuff I'm doing, but like I don't watch a lot of
well, it could be games, it could be
um.
comics or shit that you've checked out that you would
I will
recommend.
say
That's
this music I'm listening to. Uh, I'm listening to a lot of Dane right now, Daine. That shit's dope. I'm listening to a lot of Two Hollis, 2HOLLIS.
Mhm.
Check that shit out. It's fucking hype. Yeah, I listen to a lot of music. I don't because again, a lot of the books and comics are like shit, but a lot of music is still dope.
All right, man. We'll call it here, and don't be afraid
Oh,
to post your shit in the Discord if you want.
yeah, maybe. But I got also Puppet. I think he goes like Puppet sucks or whatever. His music's fucking awesome. It's like a fusion of like Japan and rock. Listen to that shit, dude.
Well, I gotta
It's
check that
fucking
out.
great. But yeah, other than that, I don't have a lot of recommendations on shit.
All right, that's all
I'm
right,
just
man.
yeah.
All right, guess we'll
But
just
all right.
call it here, guys, and we'll
But
hope you guys enjoyed this interview here with King Cringe, and we'll catch you on next time. I don't know when the hell that's gonna be, but hopefully sooner
uh,
than later.
wait, are we doing this as a? I think like we're doing this as a podcast potentially.
I guess we can.
Like I don't know, but I think we have a plan for like next month, right?
Yeah,
We're gonna try to do
so
something
maybe
next
next
month.
month we'll catch you next month, hopefully.
Yeah, we don't know what's gonna happen, but try it out for a shot. Yeah.
Take care and raise those fucking horns.